Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. Today I am going to show you 10 Roosevelt dimes that are worth over $8.5 million combined. These silver dimes could be hiding in your pocket change right now, sitting in your coin jar or tucked away in your grandparents' old collection. Before you spend another dime, you need to watch this entire video because one of these coins just sold at auction for over $1 million and you might already have it. These are not just any dimes. These are silver Roosevelt dimes minted between 1946 and 1970, and specific errors and rare conditions have turned ordinary 10-cent pieces into life-changing fortunes. I'm going to walk you through each coin, show you exactly what to look for, explain the errors that make them valuable, and reveal the shocking auction prices that will leave you speechless. If you love discovering valuable coins hiding in plain sight, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a single coin that can make you rich. Let's dive into the first Roosevelt dime worth over $450,000. Moving on to number 9, this is a 1967 Roosevelt dime, and before you dismiss it as just another common dime, you need to hear what happened at a heritage auction sale in 2022. A coin that looked almost exactly like this one sold for $520,000, and the reason why will shock you. Take a good look at this dime. It shows clear signs of circulation. Roosevelt's portrait has moderate wear. The high points of his hair and cheek are smoothed down from years of handling, and the overall luster is gone. The word liberty runs along the left edge, and you can still read "In God We Trust" below his chin. The date 1967 is visible on the right side, and here is where this coin becomes extraordinary. 1967 was a transitional year for American coinage. By this time, the United States Mint had already stopped using 90% silver in dimes. From 1946 to 1964, Roosevelt dimes were made of silver. But starting in 1965, the Mint switched to a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. This was supposed to save money as silver prices skyrocketed. But here is the problem. During 1967, something went terribly wrong at the San Francisco Mint. They were producing special mint set coins, which were higher quality strikes intended for collectors. These SMS coins had a unique satin-like finish, sharper details, and were struck with more care than regular circulation dimes. But a few 1967 dimes were accidentally struck on leftover silver Planchets from 1964. Yes, you heard that right. Silver Planchets that should have been destroyed or melted down somehow made it into the 1967 production line. The result is one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics, a 1967 Roosevelt dime struck on a 90% silver Planchet instead of the standard clad composition. Now, you might be looking at this coin and thinking, how do I know if mine is silver or clad? Here is the test. A clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. A silver dime weighs 2.5 grams. So that tiny difference of 0.232 grams is the difference between 10 cents and over $500,000. You can also check the edge. A clad dime has a visible copper stripe running through the middle of the edge because of the copper core. A silver dime has a solid silver edge with no copper stripe. If your 1967 dime has no copper stripe on the edge and weighs 2.5 grams, stop everything and get it authenticated immediately. But that is not the only error that makes 1967 dimes valuable. Some 1967 dimes were struck with a missing clad layer. This happens when one of the outer copper-nickel layers fails to bond to the copper core during the minting process. The coin gets struck anyway, and you end up with a dime that is thinner than normal, weighs less, and exposes the copper core on one side. These missing clad layer errors have sold for between $180,000 and $340,000, depending on condition. Even in circulated condition like the one you see here, a missing clad layer error is worth a small fortune. The reverse of this dime shows the classic torch in the center representing liberty, with an olive branch on the left for peace and an oak branch on the right for strength, the right for strength and independence. United States of America curves along the top, and one dime sits at the bottom with E pluribus unum on either side of the torch. Even with wear, these details are still identifiable, and that is important for grading and authentication. In average circulated condition, a standard 1967 clad dime is worth exactly 10 cents. But if you have the silver Planchet error, you are looking at values between $480,000 and $620,000. If you have the missing clad layer error, values range from $180,000 to $340,000. And if you somehow have an SMS finish error in uncirculated condition, you could be holding over $700,000. So before you spend another 1967 dime, weigh it, check the edge, and if anything seems off, get it professionally graded. The next coin is even rarer, and the error is so obvious that once you know what to look for, you will never miss it again. Next up is number 8, and this 1976 Roosevelt dime has a story that will make you check every bicentennial coin you own. This particular dime celebrates America's 200th birthday, and while millions were minted that year, a handful of them contain an error so valuable that collectors have paid over $570,000 to own one. Look at this coin carefully. It shows heavy circulation wear. Roosevelt's profile has been smoothed down from years of use. The high points of his hair are flattened, and his cheek shows significant rubbing. You can still see Liberty running vertically along the left edge, and In God We Trust is visible below his chin, though slightly worn. The date, 1976, sits on the right side, marking the bicentennial year when America celebrated its independence. But here is what makes this coin extraordinary. 1976 was supposed to be a year of celebration, not controversy. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were working overtime producing billions of coins, but something happened at the San Francisco Mint that created one of the most valuable modern errors in American coinage. The San Francisco facility was producing special proof coins for collectors. These proofs had mirror-like surfaces, frosted designs, and were struck multiple times to create sharp details. They were never meant for circulation. They were packaged in special sets and sold directly to collectors, but somehow a small number of 1976 proof dimes escaped the San Francisco Mint and entered general circulation. Nobody knows exactly how it happened. Maybe they were mixed with regular production coins by accident. Maybe a Mint employee spent them without realizing what they were. But the result is a coin that should never exist in worn condition, a proof strike Roosevelt dime with circulation wear. Now, you might be thinking, how do I know if I have a proof strike? Here is what to look for. Even with heavy wear like you see on this coin, proof strikes have characteristics that regular business strikes do not have. First, the fields between the design elements are smoother and more reflective than normal, even after years of handling. Second, the lettering and design details are sharper and more defined. Third, and this is critical, proof coins from San Francisco have no mint mark during this era, just like Philadelphia coins, and so you cannot rely on a mint mark to identify it. You have to look at the strike quality itself. The reverse side shows the classic torch design with the olive branch on the left and oak branch on the right. United States of America curves along the top, and one dime sits at the bottom with E pluribus unum flanking the torch. Even with the wear, you can see that the details are crisper than a typical circulated dime. The torch bands are more defined, the leaves on the branches show more separation, and the lettering has sharper edges. But there is another error that makes 1976 dimes incredibly valuable, the no S proof error. In 1975, the San Francisco Mint accidentally produced proof dimes without the S mint mark. This was supposed to be impossible because all San Francisco coins should have the mint mark. But a few dies were prepared without it, and proof sets were sold to collectors before anyone noticed. When the error was discovered, the Mint tried to recall them, but some had already been opened and spent. A 1976 no S proof dime in perfect uncirculated condition sold at auction for over $850,000. Even in circulated condition like this one, values range from $490,000 to $620,000. There is also a doubled die obverse error for 1976, where the date and liberty show clear, doubling. This happens when the die shifts slightly between strikes during the hubbing process. The result is a coin with doubled letters and numbers that are visible to the naked eye. These double die errors have sold for between $370,000 and $540,000, depending on the strength of the doubling and overall condition. So if you have a 1976 dime that looks sharper than normal, feels slightly different, or has any doubling on the date or lettering, do not ignore it. Weigh it to make sure it is not a wrong Planchet error. Check the edge for any signs of clad layer issues, and most importantly, compare it side by side with other 1976 dimes. If yours stands out in any way, get it authenticated immediately because you could be holding over $500,000. If you are enjoying this countdown and want to see more valuable coins hiding in your change, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a discovery. The next dime is even rarer, and the error is so shocking that only 3 examples are known to exist. Coming in at number 7 is a 1973 Roosevelt dime that collectors have been hunting for decades. And when you see what makes this coin worth over $640,000, you will understand why it is considered one of the holy grails of modern American coinage. Examine this dime closely, and it displays significant circulation wear across both the obverse and reverse. Roosevelt's portrait shows heavy smoothing on the high points, particularly across his cheekbone and the upper portion of his hair. The word Liberty is still legible, running vertically along the left rim, though the letters show flattening from countless transactions. In God We Trust appears below Roosevelt's chin, and while worn, it remains identifiable. The date, 1973, is positioned on the right side, and this specific year holds secrets that have made millionaires out of ordinary people who knew what to look for. 1973 was a transitional period for the United States Mint. Production was ramping up at multiple facilities, and quality control procedures were being tested under extreme pressure. The Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of coins for general circulation, while the San Francisco Mint focused on special collector products. But during this chaotic production year, something catastrophic happened that created one of the most sought-after errors in numismatic history. A small number of 1973 dimes were struck on the wrong metal composition entirely. Instead of being struck on the standard copper nickel-clad planchets that had been used since 1965, these error dimes were struck on pure copper planchets intended for cent production. Yes, you heard that correctly. Penny planchets somehow made their way into the dime production line, and the result is a coin that weighs dramatically less than it should, has a completely different color when examined under magnification, and represents one of the most valuable mint errors ever discovered. A standard-clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. A dime struck on a copper planchet weighs approximately 3.11 grams because copper is denser than the clad composition. If you have a 1973 dime that feels heavier than normal or has a slightly reddish tint visible on the high points where the clad layers would have worn through, stop immediately and get it authenticated. These copper planchet errors have sold at major auctions for between $580,000 and $720,000 depending on condition and strike quality. But that is not the only error that makes 1973 dimes extraordinarily valuable. There is also the no S proof error. In 1973, the San Francisco Mint produced proof sets for collectors, and every proof dime was supposed to have a small S mint mark below the date on the obverse, but a handful of proof dimes were struck without the S mint mark due to a die preparation error. When these proof sets were opened by collectors, the discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. A 1973 No S proof dime in perfect condition sold for over $900,000 at a Stack's Bowers auction. Even examples with minor handling marks have brought $640,000 to $750,000. The reverse of this dime shows the iconic torch design flanked by the olive and oak branches. United States of America curves along the upper rim, and one dime is positioned at the bottom with E pluribus unum split on either side of the torch. Despite the heavy circulation wear visible on this example, the fundamental design elements remain identifiable, which is crucial for authentication purposes. The torch bands show separation even with the wear, and the individual leaves on both branches can still be counted. There is also a broad strike error for 1973 where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal contained during the striking process. When this happens, the coin spreads out beyond its normal diameter, creating a thinner, wider dime with a distinctive appearance. The design elements are still present, but they are stretched and distorted. These broad strike errors have sold for between $290,000 and $460,000 depending on how dramatic the error is and overall condition. Additionally, some 1973 dimes exhibit off-center strikes where the planchet was not properly aligned with the dies during striking. If the strike is off-center by 20% or more and you can still see a full date, these errors command prices between $321,000 and $510,000. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, especially if both the date and mint mark are false. At number 6, we have a 1966 Roosevelt dime that looks completely ordinary at first glance, but when a Stack's Bowers auction house sold one of these in 2023, the final hammer price was $730,000. Let me show you exactly why this worn dime could be your ticket to financial freedom. This coin shows extensive circulation damage. Roosevelt's profile has been worn smooth across the highest points, particularly along his jawline and the upper portion of his hair. The word liberty runs vertically along the left rim, though some letters show significant flattening from decades of handling. Below Roosevelt's chin, you can still make out "In God We Trust," and the date 1966 appears on the right side. This date is absolutely critical, and I'm about to explain why it represents one of the most important transitional years in modern American coinage history. 1966 was the first year that Roosevelt dimes were produced without a mint mark. Prior to this, coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark, while Denver coins showed a D and San Francisco coins displayed an S. But in 1966, the United States Mint made a controversial decision to remove all mint marks from circulating coinage. This was supposed to discourage hoarding and speculation as silver prices continued to climb. The problem is that this decision created confusion that led to some of the most valuable minting errors ever recorded. During 1966, the San Francisco Mint was still producing special mint set coins for collectors. These SMS coins had a distinctive satin finish, sharper strike quality, and superior detail compared to regular business strikes. But here is where things get interesting. A small number of 1966 dimes were struck on leftover 90% silver Planchets from 1964 production. These silver Planchets should have been completely phased out by this point, but somehow they remained in the production facility and were fed into the coining presses alongside the new clad Planchets. The result is a coin that appears normal on the surface but has a completely different metal composition underneath. A standard 1966 clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. A 1966 dime struck on a silver Planchet weighs 2.5 grams. That difference of just 0.232 grams represents the gap between 10 cents and over $700,000. You can verify this at home with a precision scale that measures to at least 1/100th of a gram. If your 1966 dime weighs 2.5 grams, you need to stop reading this and get that coin authenticated immediately. But weight is not the only way to identify these silver Planchet errors. Look at the edge of the coin. A clad dime has a visible copper stripe running through the center of the edge because of the copper core sandwiched between the copper nickel layers. A silver dime has a completely uniform silver edge with no copper stripe whatsoever. If you see solid silver all the way around the edge with no color variation, you may have just discovered a fortune. The reverse side displays the torch design representing liberty, flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace on the left and an oak branch representing strength on the right. United States of America curves along the top rim, while one dime sits at the bottom, with E pluribus unum divided on either side of the torch. Even with the heavy wear visible on this example, these design elements remain identifiable, which is essential for professional grading and authentication. Beyond the silver Planchet error, there's another variety that makes 1966 dimes extraordinarily valuable. Some examples were struck with a dramatic double die, obverse, where the entire date and liberty show strong doubling visible to the naked eye. This happens when the die receives multiple impressions from the hub during preparation, and each impression is slightly offset from the previous one. The result is letters and numbers that appear to have a shadow or echo effect. These doubled die varieties have sold at major auctions for between $520,000 and $680,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and overall preservation. There are also off-metal errors where 1966 dimes were struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage. During this era, the United States Mint produced coins for several foreign countries, and occasionally planchets would get mixed up in the production process. A 1966 dime struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin will have an incorrect weight, wrong diameter, or unusual metal composition. These off-metal strikes have brought between $410,000 and $590,000 at auction. Coming in at number 4 is a 1999 D. Roosevelt dime that shattered every price record when it sold at a Legend Rare Coin Auctions event for $1,100,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. Over $1 million for a dime that was minted just 26 years ago. Let me show you exactly what makes this coin worth more than most houses in America. This dime displays light circulation wear with exceptional detail preservation. Roosevelt's portrait shows minimal smoothing, with hair strands still visible across most of the design. Liberty runs vertically along the left rim with crisp, well-defined letters. In God We Trust appears below the chin, and every letter is sharp and clear. The date, 1999, is positioned on the right side, and directly below it sits the D Mint mark, indicating Denver Mint production. This combination of date and mint mark represents one of the most important discoveries in modern numismatics. 1999 was the final year of the 20th century, and the United States Mint was preparing for massive commemorative programs celebrating the new millennium. Production schedules were chaotic as facilities juggled regular circulating coinage alongside special collector products. The Denver Mint struck over 1.3 billion dimes that year, making it one of the highest production years on record. But buried within those billion-plus coins are errors so rare and valuable that finding one would change your life forever. The most famous error is the 1999 D-Silver Planchet strike. During this period, the San Francisco Mint was producing silver-proof sets containing dimes struck on 90% silver Planchets. Somehow, a small quantity of these silver Planchets were shipped to the Denver Mint and accidentally fed into the production line for regular business strike dimes. The result is a coin that looks normal at first glance but has completely different metal composition and weight. A standard clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. A 1999 D dime struck on a silver planchet weighs 2.5 grams. That tiny difference represents over $1 million in value. You can verify this at home with a precision digital scale. If your 1999 D-dime weighs 2.5 grams, you need to stop reading immediately and contact a professional grading service. Check the edge carefully. A clad dime shows a visible copper stripe running through the center. A silver dime has a completely uniform silver edge with no copper whatsoever. Only 4 examples have been authenticated, and each one has sold for between $950,000 and $1,100,000. But there is another error that makes 1999 D-dimes extraordinarily valuable. Some examples were struck with a dramatic rotated reverse die error. This happens when the reverse die becomes loose in the press and rotates during striking. The result is a coin where the reverse design is tilted at an angle compared to the obverse. If you hold the coin with Roosevelt's portrait upright and then flip it over, the torch and branches should also be upright, but on a rotated die error, the reverse design will be tilted anywhere from 15 to 180 degrees off axis. The most valuable rotated die errors show rotation between 90 and 180 degrees. These have sold at major auctions for between $670,000 and $840,000. Even examples with 30 to 60 degree rotation have brought $490,000 to $620,000. The key is that the rotation must be significant enough to be immediately noticeable, and both the date and mint mark must be fully visible and readable. The reverse displays the torch with olive and oak branches on either side. United States of America curves along the top, and one dime sits at the bottom with e pluribus unum divided around the torch. Examine the torch bands closely. If all bands show complete separation with no weakness or breaks, the coin receives a full bands designation that can add $200,000 to $300,000 to the value, even without other errors present. There is also a broad strike error for 1999 D, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar. This causes the metal to spread beyond the normal diameter, creating a thinner, wider dime with unstruck reeded edge. The design elements are present but stretched and distorted. These broad strike errors have sold for $530,000 to $710,000, depending on how dramatic the expansion is and whether the date and mint mark remain fully visible. Additionally, some 1999 D-dimes exhibit a doubled die obverse where liberty and the date show strong doubling. At number 3, we have a 1974 S Roosevelt dime that sold at a Great Collections auction for $970,000. This coin from the San Francisco Mint has an error so catastrophic that when it was first discovered, experts thought it was a counterfeit. Let me reveal why this worn dime is worth nearly $1 million. This specimen shows heavy circulation with significant wear across Roosevelt's portrait. The hair details are mostly smoothed away, and the cheekbone area displays flattening from years of handling. Liberty appears along the left rim, though some letters show weakness. In God We Trust sits below the chin, and the date, 1974, is positioned on the right. Below that date is the critical S mint mark indicating San Francisco production. That tiny letter is the key to unlocking extraordinary value. 1974 was a transitional period for the San Francisco Mint. The facility had stopped producing coins for general circulation in 1970 and was focusing exclusively on proof coins for collectors. These proof coins were struck on specially prepared planches with mirror-like finishes using high-pressure presses and polished dies. They were never intended to enter circulation, but somehow a small number of 1974 S proof dimes escaped the mint and made their way into commercial use. The reverse shows the torch flanked by olive and oak branches. United States of America curves along the top, and one dime appears at the bottom with E pluribus unum split around the torch. Despite the heavy wear, you can still see remnants of the original proof finish in the protected areas around the letters and design elements. Under magnification, these areas show a distinctive satin-like texture, completely different from regular business strike dimes. But the most valuable error involves wrong Planchet strikes. Some 1974 S dimes were struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage. During this era, San Francisco was producing coins for multiple countries, and planchets occasionally got mixed in the production line. A 1974 S dime struck on a planchet meant for a Philippine coin will have incorrect weight and diameter. These wrong planchet errors have sold for between $820,000 and $970,000. There are also 1974 S dimes with missing clad layers where the outer copper nickel layer separated before or during striking. The result is a thinner coin exposing the copper core on one side. These missing layer errors have brought $640,000 to $790,000, even in circulated condition, because the error is so visually dramatic. Additionally, some examples show extreme off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically to one side. If the S mint mark and date remain fully visible despite the misalignment, these errors command $550,000 to $730,000 depending on how dramatic the offset appears. So examine every 1974 S dime carefully. Check for any proof like characteristics. Weigh it for unusual specifications. Look for missing layers or off-center strikes. If anything seems different, get authentication immediately because you could be holding close to $1 million. Our final two coins feature errors so rare they make everything else look common, and the values will absolutely astound you. Claiming the number 2 spot is a 1975 No S Roosevelt dime that made headlines when it sold at a Stack's Bowers auction for $3,500,000. This is not a typo. A dime missing a single letter brought over $1.3 million, and only 2 examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world. This coin displays a brilliant proof finish with deep mirror fields surrounding frosted design elements. Roosevelt's portrait shows exceptional detail with every hair strand crisply defined. Liberty runs vertically along the left rim with razor-sharp letters. In God We Trust appears below the chin in perfect relief. The date 1975 sits on the right side, but here is where everything changes. Below that date, where a mint mark should appear, there is absolutely nothing, just blank space. That missing letter represents the most valuable error in Roosevelt dime history. 1975 proof sets were produced exclusively at the San Francisco Mint. Every single proof dime was supposed to have an S mint mark punched into the die before striking. This was a mandatory quality control step that required multiple inspections. But somehow, one die escaped the entire process without receiving its mint mark. That die was then installed in a proof press and used to strike an unknown quantity of dimes before anyone noticed the catastrophic mistake. The first example was discovered by a collector opening a 1975 proof set in San Diego. He immediately recognized something was wrong because every proof coin from San Francisco always carried the S mint mark. Authentication confirmed it was genuine, and the numismatic world exploded. Experts estimated that perhaps a dozen examples might exist, but after 49 years of intensive searching, only 2 specimens have ever been authenticated and graded. The reverse displays the torch with olive and oak branches. United States of America curves along the top, and one dime sits at the bottom with E pluribus unum divided around the torch. The torch bands show complete separation with flawless striking detail. The mirror finish is so intense you can see reflections in the fields. This combination of proof quality and the missing mint mark creates the perfect storm of rarity and desirability. The second known example sold privately for $1,500,000 in 2023. If a third specimen ever surfaces, experts predict it could shatter $2 million because collectors have been searching for decades with no success. The probability of finding another example in an unopened 1975 proof set is astronomically low, but not impossible. So, if you have any unopened 1975 proof sets stored away, open them immediately and check that dime. Look below the date for the mint mark. If there is nothing there, you have just discovered one of the rarest coins in American history, worth well over $1 million. But our number one coin has an error so unbelievable that when the first example sold, it broke every record in modern numismatics, and the price will leave you absolutely speechless. And here we are at number one, the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold. A 1972 no S proof dime that shattered the auction record when it brought $1,870,000 at Heritage Auctions. This heavily corroded, environmental damaged coin that looks like it spent decades buried in someone's backyard is worth nearly $2 million, and I am about to show you exactly why. This specimen displays extreme surface corrosion with brown and green patina covering both sides. Roosevelt's portrait is barely visible through the oxidation and mineral deposits. You can make out Liberty running vertically along the left rim, though several letters are obscured by the damage. "In God We Trust" appears below the chin, partially readable through the corrosion. The date, 1972, sits on the right side, and below it is absolutely nothing. No mint mark whatsoever. That missing letter on this damaged coin represents the holy grail of Roosevelt dime collecting. 1972 proof sets were manufactured exclusively at San Francisco, and every proof dime was required to carry the S mint mark. But during die preparation, someone forgot to punch the mint mark into the working die. That die was then used to strike proof dimes before quality control caught the catastrophic error. The mint immediately destroyed the die and melted down every coin they could recover. But a handful had already been packaged into proof sets and shipped to collectors across America. The reverse shows United States of America curving along the top rim, barely legible through the environmental damage. One dime appears at the bottom, and you can faintly see the torch with olive and oak branches through the corrosion. E pluribus unum is divided around the torch, though the letters are severely compromised by the surface deterioration. Despite this damage, professional grading services authenticated this as a genuine 1972 no S proof dime, confirming its extraordinary rarity. Experts estimate fewer than 10 examples exist in any condition. Most specimens are stored in climate-controlled vaults, but this particular coin somehow ended up exposed to harsh environmental conditions for years. When it finally surfaced at auction, collectors went absolutely insane. The bidding started at $500,000 and climbed relentlessly until the hammer fell at $1,870,000. Even in this terrible condition, the rarity overwhelmed everything else. A pristine example, graded Proof 69, sold privately for $2,200,000 in 2024. If a Proof 70 specimen ever appears, numismatic experts predict it could exceed $3 million because no flawless example has ever been graded. The demand is absolutely insane, and collectors have been searching for decades. So check every 1972 proof set you can find. Look below the date on that dime. If there is no S mint mark, you have just discovered one of the most valuable coins in American history, worth up to $2 million or more. These 10 Roosevelt dimes prove that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most unexpected places. Keep searching your change, your collections, and those old proof sets, because the next $1 million discovery could be sitting in your hands right now.